something mystical about it. I just like the tone. There's something very hypnotizing about it. And I think I also wanted to use some instruments that you don't hear as much in pop music. I don't necessarily consider what I'm doing pop, but it's not experimental as well, and it's not classical. I kind of mix many different things together. Hello.
Hi. Geeta, is it Geeta?
Geeta, yes.
Geeta. So lovely to meet you here on Zoom.
Yes, lovely to meet you. Thank you for having me.
It's wonderful. Thank you for your time. I've read that you are a multi-instrumentalist. You are a singer. You are a songwriter. You are a very talented musician. And tell me about this project that you have that you're doing, Belle Scar.
Well, at the moment, I'm making an album with all the material. So basically, I decided to take slightly a different direction, and with more orchestration and more arrangements, because I've always loved music that has like choir and strings. So I kind of wanted to have those elements in this music that I was writing. So I just kind of started getting into just kind of getting into a certain zone of like having the ideas come together. When you write music, you just kind of, sometimes it's a melody, sometimes it's it's more abstract, sometimes it's just like a mood. So you see like colors, you see images, and then it kind of develops into some melody patterns or harmonies, or it becomes chord progressions for a song. So I kind of decided, having that in mind, that I wanted to have the arrangements really up front. So when I started writing the material, I just kind of like had ideas a lot about the vocal arrangements. So I just started kind of layering different harmonies, and then kind of like doing a lot of layers. And then I was like, oh, okay, I'm starting to get somewhere where I find that very interesting. So I started developing a lot of that with the stories, and having ideas for visuals at the same time.
Yeah, so it evolved basically.
Yes.
Yeah, because this is something that I thought about also a while ago, was that say, for example, a musician, you spend a lot of time on your own. You spend a lot of time practicing, and and when you compose, of course, you're also doing it alone. How does your mind then think bigger? Adding people, adding musicians to your concept.
Well, I guess once I kind of start to really develop the song, so I need that time, that big chunk of time on my own, to really get all like the basic of what I want musically. Then after that, I kind of have ideas of sounds of instruments that I want. So like the instruments that were mainly the core of like this album that I'm working on. Like I knew that organs with the piano, mixed both of them together, Wurlitzer sounds, were going to be very present, because I love the organ sound and I wanted to kind of blend it in. And I knew that I wanted to have strings also on it. And then for the rest, it was kind of like open a bit to see what's going to work. But I also knew, like, for the rhythm part, that I wanted something more cinematic. So I knew I wanted something very, very tribal, with like percussions and floor toms. That was quite defined a bit of the type of sounds that I wanted. But but it was still a bit abstract. And then that's where you need other people to come in and to kind of like understand a bit what your vision is and what you want, and then after that, kind of like have their skills and their their input in the music. So I've been really fortunate to be able to work with my husband, who's a really good producer, and he's also a really good musician as well. So he helped me to write the string arrangements. He's very good. He's got a huge background in many things, from rock and roll to classical music. So he really helped to write the arrangements. She did an amazing job. So that was really good. And we work also with a drummer who did some percussions as well. And then I kind of told him a bit the direction that I wanted, and then we tried things together, like frame drums and then some Glock as well, which really worked well on some songs. So then we kind of developed that. And yeah, I've just surrounded myself with some lovely people that were really interested in the project. And then we just kind of developed it from there. So now the whole lineup is, yes, so there's percussion, there's some strings. My husband also plays some guitars on certain songs. We have some bass. So I do all the piano, the organs, all the vocal arrangements. And yeah, and there's some mandolin on some songs. So we're still in kind of like that process of recording. Yeah. So we might add, I might decide that I want to have something else because it's still in the making. But yes, it's kind of coming together.
Well, you've mentioned now two instruments that I've just recently spoke to musicians about, and this is the organ and the mandolin. And these are two instruments that, I actually last week spoke to the first organist, and it's I was saying that it's an instrument that you know about, but you don't hear, you don't meet a lot of organists. It's not a very it's not an instrument that you sort of, it's not like the violin. You see a lot of violinists and pianists and so on. So it's interesting for me that you now say that you incorporated that sound. What is it about the organ that you like?
Something mystical about it. I just like the tone. There's something very hypnotizing about it. And I think I also wanted to use some instruments that you don't hear as much in pop music. I don't necessarily consider what I'm doing pop, but it's not experimental as well, and it's not classical. I kind of mix many different things together, but I kind of wanted in the songwriting, I just thought that it would be interesting to have these types of sounds that have a very there's something very mystical about it, very hypnotizing, and I really like that, and I really wanted to have that effect in the sounds chosen. That I really wanted to it's textures that and it really makes you feel something. So that's what I wanted to do with all the different songs. There's some of them that have more of like a more hypnotic feel to it, and it has more of like a cinematic, more magical, with like the vocal arrangements and things. And I think the organ just kind of has something very deep, very interesting about it. Yeah. I love the organ. So
and also that you mentioned the mandolin, because when I spoke to the mandolinist, I said if I hear the instrument mandolin, then I always imagine this medieval man playing the mandolin, and then this princess in the castle, and it has this romantic idea. Is this what you find also with
I totally agree. Yeah, and I think also that it's you have all like these these references of like instruments of a certain time, and it really kind of makes you think that. And I think that's what's interesting. It's kind of like bringing those elements, but into something more modern and to something quite different, and to kind of see what you can do with it. So that's why I also like the glockenspiel also is the sound I love. And I thought that's also like a very mystical, very interesting sound, which Yeah, I find in a lot of like more like the pop music, rock music, alternative music, that you don't have these elements, and I kind of wanted to add all of that and to kind of see what the story is going to be, what the final sound is going to be, because I think it's all interesting textures, sound textures.
But you don't just use the sound, you also very visual, because I saw that also, you know, what you wear and how you present yourself is also very interesting, very creative. So
Thank you.
is that also something that is done on purpose, or is it is just part of who you are?
I would say it's kind of it's a bit of both, in the sense that it is a part of who I am, but on the other side, it's also something that I kind of think about, and I kind of like to um, I like to kind of push that a bit, the visual side, and get certain elements. Like I'm really interested, like I mentioned, about like sound textures for music, but I'm also interested in textures visually, though I really don't consider myself a visual artist. I did a bit of some fine arts in school, and film studies, and all of that, but I didn't pursue that. I'm really more of a musician, but I do like, and I think that in the latest years, I've developed that kind of reconnecting to the visual side and wanting to develop that. So I kind of like that being, I would consider it more like artistic direction, where it's kind of like getting elements of the environment with set designs, and then working with people that have also interesting ideas, and then we kind of build it up together. So yeah, so there's some that I have done a lot of like research, and just kind of fabric is also something I use a lot. Like I love textures in fabric, so I've been kind of just, yeah, I love going to like fabric shops and like seeing, oh, this is unusual, this is interesting. I could kind of see that somehow in like in the bigger picture of the music and the visual together. So yeah, and I've been lucky also to work with some really great costume designers, set designers who's worked with me and have been very loyal and really understood what I wanted. So I'm really fortunate to have that. And then I've also worked with some really great makeup artists, photographers, so to really help kind of get some of the ideas there. But so yes, I would say it is part, like I do like to kind of get into a certain place where you can allow yourself, and that's what's great about doing art, is you can allow yourself to do anything you want to. You can be whatever it is that you want to be. You can express whatever it is you want to express. And I just thought that, since also what my music is very introspective, it's not like your typical happy pop song, though.
Yeah.
There is a lot of hope in there. I think that there's a positive hope message in my music, but it has some melancholic, some very dreamy, it has different emotions, the different experience. So I thought that with a visual that's kind of like very interesting, it kind of makes people experience something that it's very introspective, but at the same time very magical, and you can kind of experience something just quite different and personal.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, and I think we are visually inclined. You know, we like the visuals as well as hearing. But now you come from a classical background. I read that you started playing the piano.
Yes, at 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how was that, or how did that work? I mean, did you do classical training further on in your life?
No, I didn't actually. I think I started off that way, but I thought it was very hard at a young age.
Yeah.
I think that, but you know, saying that, like back then, it was a bit of a struggle. but I'm really happy today because it did give me that background, which kind of has come back in my life later on. But yeah, no, I think that element has always been inside of me. Like I've always loved classical music, but I don't think I had the mind state and the I was a little bit too how do we say, a bit too all over the place and too much in my imagination to kind
Yeah.
of be able to focus and to really play. And I think that yeah, it's not for everyone. And then that's why I took more of a direction when I was a teenager to write my own poetry and then write my own songs, my own stories. So I think that kind of felt more natural for me, and to be able to express things a bit looser. And classical music is quite it's hard because there's a lot of rules and there's a lot of things, and if you're not in that mind state, then you can't really appreciate it, and you can't. Yes, and I think it was just not for me at that time.
Yeah.
So I've kind of taken more of a singer-songwriter, writing my own things. Yeah, and then I went more into alternative music, electronic music, and I've explored many different things.
But now the musicians that you work with, because you use very classical instruments as well, do you work with musicians who are all classically trained?
Yes, for the strings, yes.
Really?
Yes, the strings, the string quartet with who I've played with, yeah, they were just brilliant. So I kind of like playing with people from different backgrounds. So you do have some, and then I have some opera singers that do the backing vocals in my music. So I do have some, and then I have other people that are more into more of a rock
Oh,
background, more
yeah.
alternative, all of that. So I kind of like working with both because you get
Yeah.
um, a very interesting mix. But because I do like the passion and like the rougher side of also the more alternative side as well, which there's something very yeah, just more, a little bit edgier, that I kind of like
Yeah.
mixing with the beauty of the classical music. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I would put it that way.
Yeah, because and during this whole pandemic, I was actually asking also this question that um, for young classical musicians, I mean, of course, it's exactly like you're saying, you know, they've got also a lot of pressure on them to perform and to do something a specific way, you know, and they have to do competitions and in their training. Yet I wonder if it's not this time gave them the opportunity to be more free and to do more their own thing, and like you're saying now that you are totally free, you're doing it the way you want to do. These musicians, these classically trained musicians, do they find it easy to go, you know, because you've got this freedom, do you think it's for them easy to understand this from you?
I think for probably some, yes. Um, I think that can apply for anyone. I think when you want to experiment something, and whatever the background, I think it is possible. Like I know a few of the musicians that I've played with. They also have some side projects where they do experimental things, and a lot of string players now experiment also with some pedals and some effects and things. So they kind
Really?
of
Yeah.
do also, which I think that's brilliant. And yeah, I think it depends what people want or feel they need to express, and perhaps there's some people that they express so intensely in what they're playing that they don't necessarily need to do something different. And I guess it's a personal journey. That's how I see it. And I think um, for me, it's always been about renewal, and I always need to kind of always move forward and always do something slightly a bit different than what I've done. But there's some other artists that I think they're quite comfortable in something and they really like that and they want to express certain things and they're quite fulfilled. And I think at the end of the day, it's whatever works for you, and how you feel that you're expressing something, and if because it's a release, and
Yeah.
it's a very personal thing. So I couldn't speak for the others, but I know for myself that the renewal part is very, very important for me, to kind of always do something different and experiment and try different things.
Yeah. No, I agree with you there. I think, and it's also necessary, you know, and I do see some musicians, you know, classically trained musicians who totally are in their zone and they're doing their thing. But I've heard of you know, many young musicians now who are experimenting and who are doing other things as well, which I think is great. And I think in this way, you also attract a younger audience, because they are introduced into these instruments and the sound or the melodies, and you know, to attract them to be more interested in different types of music. I love that idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. You can
Yeah.
introduce things, and then it makes people curious about, oh, this is references from something, and then they kind of it expands knowledge, and I think that's really good. And especially in art, there's just so much that you can, and I really like that idea. It really feels that you can fusion things and you can mix things, and I think anything can be done well if it's done, you know, if it's done in if it has like an interesting approach to it, then I think anything can be good if it's well, you know, worked on.
Well, I spoke to a young pianist, Charlie Albright, and he played in Carnegie Hall some concerto on the piano. And afterwards, for his encore, he did Great Balls of Fire. He played Great Balls of Fire. And I absolutely love that he did that in such a hall with the audience that came for you know, to listen to a piano concerto. And because music, I think, is, you know, it's all that you know, say rock music has also their wonderful what do you say, the you know, like the genre has got beautiful music as well, and it's also can be played in any setting, really. So, but now you are in the UK, and but originally you are from Canada.
Yes, Montreal.
From Montreal. So what brought you to the UK?
I needed some change. I think I had grown out of Montreal. I kind of felt that I was limited. And then I organized a tour on my own. I was off for 2 months around Europe. And then my last stop was in England. And then that's where I met my husband. And it just, so it brought me here. I was ready for a change, and then life just kind of happened.
Yeah.
And then I decided to stay here.
I love love stories, and that sounds like a very good one for me.
Yes. No, it was really good. Everything's about timing in life. And yes, I really wanted to come to Europe, and there's so much more opportunities I find in London. It's just, there's so much happening, and I think it's great because I get to see so many great shows, so many, from like music to exhibitions to it's London is great for that. So I'm really embracing all of that. So I'm quite happy that things worked out that way, and then I'm here now, and I feel at home.
And the pressure on musicians in London, do you find it that there's a lot of competition and that it's a bit more difficult to get into the market?
Well, I think it's like that everywhere, honestly. I think now with everything online, I think that there's just so much, because now everyone can release their music, their art online, which which is great. So it gives opportunities to everyone, but now there's just so much of it. And I think a lot of people are a bit bombarded with like the whole social media and like things here. So you don't get to really get in depth into what people do. You just kind of scroll and see things. So I think it's not so much about a place, but it's more about, yeah, the whole world is all online now, and there's just so much happening. So it's very hard for you as an artist to say, hello, I'm here, I want to share what I'm doing. So I think after that, it's just a question of, you just do your best. You just try different things and you see what works. And as for, I think being in London, on the contrary, it just gives you, there's many opportunities for people to play. So I think that's always a good thing. So even if there's a lot, but there's still a lot of opportunities to do things. If you want to perform, you can. So there's that. But yeah, I think it's something that's quite tricky for the whole online world for musicians, and also because people don't buy music anymore and they just stream it, and so it's playlists. It's very hard for people to really get into something. So I think also that's why I kind of wanted to really do an album, and to kind of, so that people that will appreciate it, they'll be able to listen to it from beginning to the end and really get into a world, because I don't want to be the type of artist that you just listen to like a quick single and then you just scroll through something else. Like even if it's doesn't get a big mainstream audience, but I'd much prefer that people will really be involved and will listen to it, that are interested, of course, and hopefully they'll enjoy it.
Yeah, but this is also why I do these interviews, is because I think it's also important to talk about, what you are doing and why you are doing it. And now already for me, just listening to what you are saying, from what I saw on Instagram, is also a completely different picture that I have now of your music. And it makes me also very interested into listening now. And I think sometimes, yeah, definitely. I think this is what my whole objective is to not just have this, online, like you say, people just scroll, but when we stop a while and just hear what the artists are saying, why they're doing this, what is the meaning of all this, then it also brings a different feel to it and a different interest into it. And so far, I mean, I've spoken to over 300 artists already, and each one of them have something so interesting to offer and such an interesting story. And I think that also has to go out in the world, to understand what the work and the input that you are doing. I think we sometimes listen to music, but we don't understand what goes on behind this, and the time frame and all the work that goes into just producing one single, like you say, or an album. And it's important that people start understanding that as well, because I think this brings also a different appreciation.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think that's really great what you're doing. And thank you for giving that platform for people to explain a bit what they're doing. I think that's really, really great. But yeah, it feels that it's always a bit tricky, because we live in a time where people's attention is just, we're all so distracted by so many things. And so it's very hard to kind of just be, and to kind of let yourself, you have to kind of, it feels that it's something that that is harder to get people's attention. And I think that's also why I wanted to do something that's a bit like more a bit grander, in the sense, because I wanted people to experience something. So when I do the shows, which I don't perform as much, because since now it's a bigger production, it requires so much work to plan and to organize and to get everyone on board. But I really want people that they come there and they experience something and I get their attention, but it's also something special. It's not just, yes, another concert.
Yeah.
So that's also something that kind of stayed in my mind. I'm like, okay, I want to do, because I've been performing for years and years, like different things, solo with keyboards, solo on the piano, more acoustic. I have had bands, all of that. And then I'm like, you know what? I want to do something that's slightly a bit more magical, where, you know, it's from like you mentioned earlier about my costume, about the lighting, about the mood, all the musicians, having the singers with who I work with, which are fantastic, having all of that together, and so that people can really experience something and forget about the
Yeah.
pace at which life is going so fast. Yeah, and especially with online, it kind of accelerates everything. You feel pressure of, oh, I have to release something, I have to do something, or else I'm going to lose people's attention, or all of that. And when you think about it, it's you know, it's a bit ridiculous, because
It
you don't
is.
want to have to rush things just to kind of feel that you're still in the loop of
Yeah.
what's going on. Mm.
No, I agree, and I also think that we sense this on Instagram. You know, this you can sense it, that there's this rush or this urgency, because I think many artists realize this. You know, that you need people's attention for it. But I think in time, I think, you know, things like this have an energy as well, and your energy is wonderful to think about what you're doing, and that you want to create an experience of it. And I think that's wonderful. I really admire you for that. And I would
Thank
so
you. That's
love
very
to. Yeah,
kind.
I think you should come to Vienna, because I would love to see one of your concerts.
I would love to.
So
I would love to.
we have to put the wish out here, and make the wish that you come to Vienna, because that would be great. So
Oh.
yeah. But it was, Geeta, it was so lovely to talk to you, and
And you too. Thank you so much.
I will really be following you with very much interest. I love this project of yours, and yeah, keep me updated when you have a
Yes,
concert
I
or
will send
something.
you the album when it's ready.
Oh, that would be great.
You'll
That would
get,
be
yes,
wonderful. Yeah.
of course.
Oh, that would be so wonderful.
Of
So,
course.
but maybe one day we'll see each other in Vienna.
Okay.
You
I would
let
love
me
to go
know.
play there.
Yeah,
Yes,
you let me know when you come.
absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure, and thank you so much for your time. This was wonderful.
No problem.
Okay.
Have a lovely day.
Thank you, you too. Bye.
Bye.